Hello, thanks for joining me. A lot of people in the US are starting to wonder if Donald Trump really dislikes being president now. If you look at the two recent television interviews he's done with Fox News and Axios, they're writhing in the seat embarrassing. He's clearly not bothered to do any serious preparation, and when he's asked for detailed questions about things like the coronavirus, the kind of information most people in a top position would be able to hold in their minds, he asks his harassed officials for documents, which he then looks at as though he's seeing them for the first time. The United States is lowest in numerous categories, he says. We're lower than the world. We're lower than Europe. And he told Fox News, I heard we had one of the lowest, maybe the lowest, mortality rate anywhere in the world. Actually, of course, as we know, the US is far worse than every other country in terms of the numbers of people who've died. As president, Donald Trump has always been inclined to say things that were misleading or actually wrong. The Washington Post has kept a daily tally of these things since 2016. Another paper says he's passed the 20,000 mark. His average used to be roughly 12 falsehoods a day, according to the Post. But recently it's gone up to 23 a day, nearly double. Trump watchers say the only thing he really seems to enjoy about being president is the attention, which he still gets. He certainly doesn't show an interest in doing anything much with the power that he wields. Not long ago, he was asked by one of his big media supporters, Sean Hannity, what his top priorities would be if he wins a second term. He rambled on, mostly about himself, and never mentioned anything that he hoped to do. In my time, I've interviewed loads and loads of presidents, prime ministers, emperors, well, two of them, kings, queens, and assorted leaders over the years. More than 200 of them altogether. I haven't interviewed Donald Trump, and somehow I doubt he'd let me. In terms of ability, I'm afraid Trump would come way, way down the list of impressive, clear-minded leaders I've met, far below every French president, every German chancellor, and every British prime minister. And not an awful lot higher in terms of awareness and articulacy than someone like the Bosnian Serb president, Radovan Karadzic, or Ayatollah Khomeini of Iran. Above Colonel Gaddafi, sure, but that's not exactly saying an awful lot. Ronald Reagan was certainly no genius, but he was far more impressive than Trump, even though he just used to learn a series of lines before he did an interview, like the actor he'd once been. And of course, Reagan had a clear sense of the gravity of office. He was an old-school gent, you might say. I've met most US presidents, from Jimmy Carter through to Barack Obama. And with the exception of Reagan, poor old Gerald Ford, and George W. Bush, they've all been extremely bright and impressive. And they all cared very much about getting their facts right. I suppose the cleverest and most formidable world leader I've ever met was Margaret Thatcher. I reported on her throughout the whole of the 1980s. She was one of the toughest people I ever interviewed, and I did so dozens of times. She was razor sharp, the best informed member of her entire government, and she didn't like journalists very much, especially not BBC ones. I wonder what she'd think of a US president who can't say what his policies are likely to be, who doesn't seem to bother to prepare for interviews which are seen around the world, and can't tell the difference between the truth and what he'd like to be true. She might well feel that for reasons of state policy she couldn't go against him publicly, but we can only imagine what she'd have thought of an American president who's disrupted the Western alliance and been so puzzlingly supportive of Russia and Vladimir Putin. Well, that's it from me. I hope to see you again soon.